Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. Okay, happy Saturday everybody. I hope you're all enjoying your weekend. Today is a very geostrategic and geopolitical focused episode. We'll be back to regular episodes looking back at the economy and other areas on Monday. Multiple news outlets this week are reporting that China will seek a region-wide deal with almost a dozen Pacific Island countries, mostly in the South Pacific, covering policing, security, and data communications when People's Republic of China Foreign Minister Wang Yi hosts a meeting in Fiji next week. A draft communique and 5-year action plan was sent by China to 10 Pacific Islands ahead of the meeting. It is also being reported that China wishes to jointly develop a marine plan for fisheries, increase cooperation on running the region's internet networks, and set up Confucius institutes and classrooms. China also mentions the possibility of setting up a free trade area. There are other sweeteners too, such as offers of assistance for dealing with climate change, development assistance, and promises of at least 2,500 government scholarships over the next 5 years. And this is particularly interesting. It's being reported that China also seeks to promise to start a new program to train young diplomats from Pacific Island countries, including training in Chinese governance. The South Pacific is becoming increasingly important for China's geopolitical plans and competition with the United States, and these moves, among others, are raising eyebrows in Washington, Tokyo, and Canberra. Indeed, the president of the Federated States of Micronesia expressed to media this week that a predetermined joint communique should be rejected because, quote, it could spark a new Cold War between China and the West. End quote. Australia is already in action. Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong of the newly elected Labour government flew to Fiji on Thursday of this week, the first stage of a 6-week diplomatic tour of the South Pacific. During his trip, Minister Wang Yi will be visiting 7 of the countries he hopes will endorse the so-called Common Development Vision: the Solomon Islands, Kiribati, Samoa, Fiji, Tonga, Vanuatu, and Papua New Guinea. The Solomon Islands leg of his tour is of particular interest for China, the US, and Australia. While Wang Yi has expressed publicly that, quote, China has no intention of establishing a military base on the Solomon Islands, end quote, the concern remains. The Solomon Islands is of particular strategic significance for Australia. When taken by the Empire of Japan during World War II, the construction of an airfield, later named Henderson Field, exposed Australian cities to bombing and threatened Australian communications with the United States and other key allies. The threat of invasion was real too. This was one of several considerations which led to the Allies choosing the Solomon Islands as the place for their first major land offensive against the Empire of Japan. We remember this campaign as the Battle of Guadalcanal, codenamed Operation Watchtower by the Americans. Since then, it has been the leading strategic priority in Australian foreign policy to prevent the emergence of a hegemon in Asia, or an adversarial power in the South Pacific. Of course, Chinese state media is painting a different picture, with the state-run Global Times yesterday writing, quote, the most prominent manifestation of Australia's colonial mentality towards the South Pacific region is that it always assumes itself as a leader of South Pacific countries or a head in a family that everyone must obey. End quote. Then, in a quite telling statement that perhaps betrays China's own strategic aspirations and considerations, the piece continues, quote, Western countries, especially Australia, not only require South Pacific countries to copy the Western political and legal systems, but also force them to become a voting tool to serve the West in international organizations. End quote. On Thursday, Foreign Minister Wang was in the Solomon Islands, where he and the host nation's Prime Minister expressed that they will, quote, forge ironclad ties and deepen cooperation between the two countries, End quote. In his public remarks as well, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi also expressed, quote, all the sinister agenda to smear the normal security cooperation between China and the Solomon Islands will be exposed. End quote. The Prime Minister, in his remarks, thanked China for sending policing supplies and police advisors to, quote, help maintain social order of the Solomon Islands. Western observers have expressed doubt regarding how successful China will be in its efforts in the South Pacific. Richard Hare, an academic who was previously director of the Center for International and Regional Affairs at the University of Fiji, speaking to US media this week, expressed, quote, I don't think you're going to find the island states rushing to say, thank God for this. They're going to look at this as a political hot potato. It will backfire in the sense that it won't be the sweeping diplomatic success that the Chinese would have appeared to hope it would. End quote. Richard McGregor, an Australian journalist and scholar who has written extensively on China, expressed this week, quote, there is no reason that Australia shouldn't restart ministerial-level talks with Beijing. Our partners, the US, Japan and India, have all such channels open to them. But nobody should mistake a resumption of such dialogue for a reset in bilateral relations. The coming weeks' diplomatic frenzy in the Pacific should put an end to such notions for good. End quote. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this episode of China Update, don't forget to hit the like button, and for anyone who wants to go the extra mile, links to my Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee are in the description below. Thank you everyone for your ongoing support. I also wanted to share one other thing. A good friend of mine from Texas in the United States, great people down there, he reached out to me this week and commented on how wonderful it was to see such a healthy and vibrant and intelligent comment section for these videos of China Update, and that it was very rare to see these types of topics discussed in such a healthy and thought-provoking way. Now for myself, I also really enjoy reading the comments below and reading what you guys say, and some of the conversations are very thought-provoking and interesting. So I just wanted to acknowledge how great it is to have such an awesome community and such an engaged community in the comments below. So thank you everybody. Now while we're here, let's quickly touch on Southeast Asia. This week on Wednesday, the Japanese Foreign Ministry published results for an annual opinion poll looking into Asian public views. The survey showed 48% of respondents from the 10-member Association of Southeast Asian Nations chose China as, quote, the region's most important partner in the future, end quote, surpassing Japan for the first time. China was followed by 43% for Japan, down 8 percentage points, and 41% for the United States, up 4 points. We should note that this polling is looking at the importance of extra-regional actors, not positive views towards these actors. The survey was commissioned by the Japanese Foreign Ministry and the Hong Kong-based marketing research firm Ipsos conducted the survey in January, covering 2,700 respondents in all ASEAN member countries except Myanmar. That's the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.